This is the first recording of my learner who is in grade 5.
Salud in the Enchanted Forest by Richard Gula. One dark night, a voice as cold as the pouring rain woke Salud up from a deep slumber. The voice that reverberated through the thick woods was calling her. She was nervous. Cleaned herself and followed the voice that was strange to her. Her feet carried her into a dense forest. Salud was astonished at the sight of fairies partying in the shade of a large tree. She could not believe it. She saw various tools made of gold. The surrounding her also adorned with beautiful pearls and diamonds. And the place was surrounded by a variety of flowers. Salud was surprised when someone had suddenly grabbed her shoulder. She was amazed to see a very handsome creature with a charming smile. He gave her a glass of drink and branched her in front of the crowd. Salud could not believe what was happening. All of a sudden, the fairies danced to the accompaniment of entertaining music. She was surprised when a trumpet had sounded as if a coronation was about to take place. Unexpectedly, a fairy appeared from nowhere, carrying a crown. The fairy happily placed the crown on Salud's head. After the crowning, the crowd shouted, "Long live the Queen! Long live the Queen!" Salud's happiness was overflowing when suddenly she felt pain on her side. She recognized the someone was pinching her. She opened her eyes widely and saw her mother's face. She then realized that she was just dreaming. Salud in the Enchanted Forest
The learner mispronounced forest as forest.
by Richard Gula. One dark night, a voice as cold as the pouring rain woke Salud up from a deep slumber.
He mispronounced up as op, but eventually correct himself for the second time. Read from instead of from. And he mispronounced deep as D.
Voice that reverberated
The learner mispronounced reverberated as reverberate.
through the thick woods was calling her.
He read throw instead of throw. He mispronounced woods with oots.
She was nervous.
He substituted do with do. Mispronounced nervous as nervous.
Cleaned herself and followed
The learner substituted she with do and comb with claim and mispronounced followed with followed.
A voice that was strange to her. Her feet carried her into a dense forest.
The learner read carried instead of carried. He mispronounced forest with forest.
The lad was astonished at the sight of Paris.
He read up instead of off. Mispronounced fairies with Paris.
Partying in the shade of a large tree.
He read partying instead of partying. Learner mispronounced off with op.
She could not believe it.
The learner substituted could with cold.
She saw various tools made of gold.
He added s in made. Mispronounced op instead of off.
Surrounding her also adorned
The learner omitted s in surroundings. Substituted her instead of were.
with beautiful pearls and diamonds.
Mispronounced beautiful with beautiful.
In the place was surrounded by a variety of flowers.
The learner inserted in before the. He mispronounced variety with variety.
Salud was surprised when someone
He read surprise instead of surprise.
had suddenly grabbed her shoulder.
He mispronounced suddenly with suddenly.
She was amazed to see a very handsome creature with a charming smile. He gave her a glass of drink
The learner read up instead of off.
and branched her in front of the crowd.
He substituted brought with brunch. Substituted here instead of her. He mispronounced front as front and substituted crowd with crowned.
Salud could not believe what was happening
The learner read could instead of could.
all of a sudden.
He mispronounced up instead of off.
And the fairies danced to the accompaniment.
The learner read Paris instead of fairies. He substituted accompaniment with accompaniment.
Of entertaining music, she was surprised
He mispronounced off as op.
when a trumpet had sounded as if a
The learner substituted sounded with sounded and is instead of as.
coronation was about to take place unexpectedly. A fairy appeared
The learner read unexpectedly instead of unexpectedly.
from now here, carrying a crown.
He mispronounced nowhere with now here. He read graying instead of carrying.
The fairy happily placed the crown on Salud's head.
The learner mispronounced fairy with fairy. He substituted on instead of on. He omitted s in saludes.
After the crowning, the crown shouted long.
For the second time, the learner read crowd with crowned, mispronounced shouted with shouted.
Long live the queen, long live the queen. Salud happiness was overflowing.
For the second time, the learner omitted is in salute. He mispronounced overflowing with overplowing.
And suddenly, she felt pain on her side.
He read suddenly instead of suddenly.
She recognized this. The someone was pitching her.
He mispronounced recognize with recognized this and substituted that with the.
She opened her eyes widely.
The learner read widely instead of widely.
And saw her mother's face.
He mispronounced face with pace.
She then realized that she was just dreaming.
And learner substituted realize with release.